Hey, how's it going everyone? So something I didn't touch on at all really in my previous video was gear piece sets and stats in general. I didn't and still don't fully understand this, and a lot of the information seems to be all over the place. But the main point of these videos is to get you familiar with things instead of just copy pasting. So I feel confident enough to give you a better way of looking at this so that you can have an easier way of understanding and finding the best build for you. And I should also say that unless you're min-maxing, literally none of this matters right now, since we'll all be singing a whole different tune once we reach the end game. And a lot of this, as you can see here for yourself, is due to the fact that as we level up, we are going to be gaining certain stats. So while you might want a lot of these early game, it might not be the case for late game. So the most important tab here and what you want to get familiar with is going to be the details tab. In this, we first see the 5 attributes: body, power, defense, agility, and momentum. Body for HP, power for physical attack, defense for physical defense and HP, agility for crit rate and minimum physical attack, and momentum for affinity rate and maximum physical attack. Now again, take everything with a grain of salt, but I'll be showing you how damage is believed to be working. I'm using this graph made by the cousin, which you should also watch his video and future videos on this, since he puts a ton of work into it, putting it into something simple, which allows me to display it simply to you. So you have your regular physical attack range. Let's use 50 to 100 as an example. So when you hit an enemy, that attack will roll either into a precision hit or a non-precision hit. A precision hit can roll into a critical, which I believe then rolls again between your min and max, and then adds plus 50% more damage. It can roll into an affinity hit, which will take your maximum physical damage and add plus 35% damage to that. And also a non-critical and non-affinity hit, which I'm not sure if it rolls here as well, but it will then just be that roll as normal damage. Next, if you roll a non-precision hit, that can then roll into either an affinity hit, which will follow the same rule as before, or an abrasion hit. For abrasion, if you rolled 75, but your roll landed on abrasion, then your damage will be lowered to your minimum number, unless you have 100% abrasion conversion, in which case your damage is restored back to 75. Now from my understanding, I think a good way to look at this is by looking at crit rate and affinity as either two different types of crit stats, or like this yin and yang type of combo. Crit rate will benefit more from increasing your minimum attack, while affinity will benefit from increasing your maximum attack. It's of course worth noting that affinity has a chance to be applied whether you hit a precision hit or not. So our optimized crit build has the potential for higher damage, but will have a tougher time being more consistent. However, to a certain extent, the same applies to affinity, since yes, it does have 2 possible rolls, but the maximum affinity rate you can get is plus 40%, plus the 10 from direct affinity rate, while crit rate has an 80% cap with an extra 20% from direct crit rate. I'm not sure if there is additional information that needs to be known about these direct rates, other than making them hard to get, since you can only get it through your in-a-way breakthroughs. Another important piece of the puzzle here is considering our precision rate. So the higher this value gets, the less important it is that affinity has 2 chances to roll. And again, keep in mind the limits of our current build possibilities and needs, as there isn't really any reason to min-max, at least not until we start getting gold level gear. Additionally, this has not been confirmed, but it's believed that rolls will follow this priority: precision, affinity, crit, abrasion. Meaning that affinity will always have a chance to roll first. So unless you have 0% affinity, then it's impossible to have true 100% crit. Seeing that affinity chance is something that we're always going to have, which means that we most likely want to find a healthy relationship between the two. And there is of course a lot of nuance to keep in mind, like in ways that can increase the damage of either one of these stats. Also, in our talents for the arena specifically, we have a talent that removes the abrasion minimum roll. Moving on, I think the in-game guide page here is a great tool to use, so let's use DPS Spell Strike as an example. Nameless Sword and Nameless Spear, we'll talk about gear sets later, and then you can see the arsenal recommendation is Bell Strike. Now, each weapon, as you can see, has a different image and color, corresponding to different elements, let's call them. So, Bell Strike, Stone Split, Silk Bind, and Bamboo Cut. Next, in your gear tab under Arsenal, you'll see that you can change your path to one of these elements. And this is just my guess without testing, but I believe you'll get a lot more by selecting the corresponding element, and also you get more goose points, so that's my excuse. Next, the 2 attribute recommendations are min and max physical attack and affinity rate. Now we already know that we have high level of precision, so let's say that crit rate and affinity are on an even playing field. Next, let's look at our in-a-way recommendations. So, Sword Morph Tier 2 benefits both crit rate and affinity, and on Tier 5, we're gaining direct affinity rate. The next recommendation doesn't affect either, but you of course want to keep the other upgrades in mind, in case it benefits your build. And then the third recommendation increases our physical attack, so benefiting both again. The last recommendation increases our affinity rate. It has an effect for both critical and affinity. and then an affinity damage bonus. So the next thing before I continue, keep in mind that it seems that we'd ideally want 80% crit and 40% affinity, or 100% crit and 0% affinity. There is again, of course, some nuance to this. So what you want to ask yourself is, are these the inner arts I want to use? If so, then we are most likely going to want Bell Strike, max physical damage, 40% affinity rate, and of course, physical damage will increase both min and max, and we can also build crit rate to mitigate any missed affinity hits. And don't forget, things like momentum will increase both affinity rate and max physical attack, and power will increase physical attack, and agility increasing minimum physical attack and critical rate. I'm not sure of the values and what's more efficient than what, but this is just so you know what you're looking at. Now, let's say you don't want to use this build, and you want to use Inkwell Fan and Spear instead. First, it's always good to check your weapon for any additional information or ideas. So for example, if we know our inner ways, we should know that Star Reacher is a possibility, thanks to our charged light attack and our E skill knockup. Next, depending on your weapon choice, you may have swapped into a different category. In this case, I am now using Silk Bind and Bell Strike. The first thing to know is even if you have Bell Strike bonuses from your gear, for example, your Silk Bind damage will still be benefiting from the Bell Strike increase. It's believed that the element will be 50% more efficient to the corresponding weapon. So now it's important, unless we're going hybrid, to determine which weapon is our main DPS weapon. This is of course going to depend on your playstyle, and I'd recommend, if you haven't already, to play around and try find combos in exactly how you like to play. Then, mixing things like inner ways. So for example, we have a Fan knockup, so we can proc Star Reacher, but we can also have something like Yaksha Rush proc Star Reacher. This then opens the gate to, do you want to focus more on using Mystic skills? Then maybe Fury Harvest is something you'll want. Are you going to be using a lot of your tab weapon swap? Then maybe Seasonal Edge could be good. Do you plan on using the charge attack of the Spear? Then Battle Anthem. Moral Chant could fit perfectly, but it's way more important at tier 3. So I'm not at tier 3, maybe I'll get better results with Insightful Strike, or maybe I'm really good at dodging attacks and I'm fine with playing the long game. After finding your playstyle, let's go back to the path guide, and now let's look at a gear set that's going to help us achieve what we want. So if we look at the Jade West set, for example, it will increase max physical attack and increase our affinity damage by 10% and deal 20% more affinity damage to targets under CC or a stamina bar lower than 40%. The effect lasts 12 seconds and can only be triggered every 30 seconds, and only if you cast a martial arts skill. So we have an 18-second downtime. Now, this is going to depend on your playstyle and how good your opponent is, but in general, I think it's safe to say that the downtime is basically non-existent, or is a lot less than 18 seconds. And for bosses, if for example the Goose ability counts towards this control state, then it becomes an option. And just in general, in PvE, this downtime does exist. And you're obviously not getting any benefit unless the conditions are met, besides the 2-piece set. But maybe this could be used in a burst build. Now, I won't go over all of these, but some of these have some useful things to know about. The Hawkwing set, for example, increases our affinity rate, and when any of your damage triggers affinity, gain Hawkwing. Hawkwing increases physical attack by 2% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So the key word here is any. That means you can also proc it with Mystic skills and certain inner ways. Note that I don't think weapon ointments can proc affinity, but maybe with the new system this might change, but I haven't got around to testing this. So regardless, the uptime on this set can be extremely good if you build and play correctly. The Veil of the Willow set increases our precision rate, and after a light attack or airborne light attack, our heavy attack and airborne heavy attack damage will increase by 12%, lasting 10 seconds. Or after a heavy attack or airborne heavy attack, our light attack, airborne light attack, and charged light attack damage will be increased. Light charged attack is like the Umbrella Air attack or the Ink Fan Tornado, for example. You can have both buffs active at the same time, and of course we can use one weapon and benefit from the buffs on the other weapon. So there is at least something here for the set depending on how you want to play it. So I'll use my build and thought process as an example, and I'm still in the middle of testing since I'm waiting for the next breakthrough and higher inner arts. But I currently like doing the combo I demonstrated in the previous video by Emily. So sword charged into knockup parry into spear heavy attack. Now, I'm still trash at doing this combo compared to the way she does it. So maybe she'll benefit a lot more from affinity related stuff. If I am only able to do the combo until the charged spear attack, or maybe I'm comfortable to use free morph cancel into another spear charge attack, then maybe my build will benefit a lot more from having something like Battle Anthem. Then maybe I take Wolf Chaser's art for my sword bleed, and Bitter Season because I don't like the frog, but I like poison. And then maybe I can also see myself using this rotation for bosses, since I can just spam and repeat the process. Well, then I want you to note that better season armor reduction does not seem to be working on bosses, meaning that most likely they don't have a defense stat. So again, unless you like poison, then you might have better results with 5-fold bleed for PvE, and then for PvP you can take better season, since we players do have a defense stat. Also, the same place where I got the better season info also says that 5-fold bleed does not interact with the bleed from your weapons. While I did test the better season, I haven't gotten around to testing the 5-fold bleed, but it might be worth knowing regardless. Also, in my opinion, the current damage that you're getting from any dot effect doesn't seem to be all that great. So unless you're using it specifically to trigger something like the Hawkwing set, I'd recommend trying to replace them with something like Star Reacher or Insightful Strike, or whatever works best for you. And then we of course have the armor sets themselves, but I don't really think any of them are good besides the Eagle Rise or Calm Water sets. And with the Calm Water set, we can then, for example, either double dip with Evasive Charge or now replace Evasive Charge with something else. But on top of this, it's important to remember and take note of all the stats your inner arts are giving you, and then go to your details tab, see what you're lacking for your build, and try and fill the gaps by tuning your gear. It might currently be more wise to take note of the possibilities and caps that you can currently reach through these tunes, at least to have a vague idea of what your build possibilities are. And it's also very important that you go through your mystic skills, go to upgrade, breakthrough preview, and then take a look at what will change. And that these are a great way to fill any gaps that you have in your build as well. For example, a very squishy build or a very up close build might benefit a lot from having golden body. Again, remember, none of this really matters until we reach endgame and have our inner art breakthroughs, and even then, make sure to prioritize having fun and coming up with your own way of playing and ignoring the meta or reaching a healthy relationship between the two. Hopefully this guide will help you achieve that goal a little easier. I haven't been able to find anywhere displaying all the stat rolls and possibilities, so if anyone knows about this, please let me know. Otherwise, if I eventually find it, I'll post it in the comments. Also, I know it sucks not being able to give clear answers, but I hate being wrong, so I'd rather have my videos be about learning together, so the best way to help ourselves is by helping each other. Also not sure if by the time this video comes out I'll have a better way of sharing this, but I will have this currently a PDF link with a lot of this information that I'm still fleshing out. I'll have this updated with different version numbers in case I update it, and will most likely have this in all of my videos, either in the comments or description. Also, I was thinking about doing a outfit/characters showcase or competition. No real prize except for bragging rights, at least until I start getting paid. So let me know if this is something that you might be interested in, as I still want to find the best possible way of having you guys sending me stuff. Anyway, as always, any further clarification or misinformation will be corrected in the comments and in the PDF. Really appreciate all the support in the previous video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!